Would it be a relief to you if you knew that you had limitless confidence, that no matter what comes up, that you have the right answer, you know exactly what to do, that you were going to be able to share what's on your heart and your mind and do it without filtering yourself? If that's something that you have been looking for, then stay tuned because I am going to give you the secret to limitless confidence. Hey there, this is the Penny on Your Thoughts podcast, and I am your host, Penny Chason. I'm a board certified hypnotist, intuitive, and experiencer. This podcast is about tapping into your subconscious to create a more aligned and abundant life. By leveraging our subconscious, we can master our thoughts, frequency, and vibration. Fusing the conscious, subconscious, and our consciousness is the science of expansion and soul satisfaction. Each week, I'll share in-depth interviews or solo episodes. This podcast was created to share how you have the power to create infinite potential within you. It's my intention that you find this podcast empowering, inspiring, and full of possibility. Now grab your favorite beverage and let's go. Hey everybody, Penny here. We're talking today about the secret to limitless confidence. Confidence is the most common thing that my clients want. Now, when people reach out to me, they reach out for various reasons, but at the end of the day, confidence is what they're seeking. Confidence in their decisions, confidence in who they are, confidence that they can actually show up and accomplish what they want, to be the person that they want to be. What is at the root of not having this limitless confidence? Well, I'll tell you, it is our thoughts that will rob us of our confidence. Now, our thoughts come from many different places. It's not just our conscious thinking. So when we think about things like imposter syndrome, embarrassment, procrastination, we're just, God, we know we can do it. We know we can do it, but we're just not showing up. Or maybe you are one of these people, like my highly successful peeps, that you show up and you do it. You push through those feelings and emotions, but you are simply over having these thoughts and these feelings come up because it takes mental and emotional energy to override those thoughts and feelings when they come up, especially when you know those thoughts and feelings are completely out of place because you have all of this evidence in your life that yes, you are successful. Yes, people respect you. Yes, people want what you have to offer. That can really be frustrating on another level, all on its own. And I find it interesting because I was having a conversation recently with someone who I love very much, love her point of view and perspective on things. And we were talking about entrepreneurs and business owners who have companies that make eight figures, multi nine figures, even billion-dollar companies. And she said to me, people at that level don't bother themselves with these things, talking about the thoughts, beliefs. And I completely agree that they don't focus on the struggle. They're not people who struggle. They're not people who are stuck. They are movers and shakers and action takers. They're these visionaries, they're luminaries, they're icons in what they do. However, That doesn't mean that the thoughts don't passively occur, that they don't have to push through those things. They may simply observe them and continue to move on. They may have learned to ignore the feelings, but the source of those feelings, the source of those thoughts, is still on the inside. And while it may not show up in their business, it may show up in their relationship with themselves. It may show up in their relationship with others. No matter what stage of the game you are, you may describe your challenge, your awareness, your observation that you have these annoying thoughts that sometimes create feelings and may or may not, depending on where you are, create this friction in you accomplishing what you want. You notice these things are there. Where does it come from? It comes from past perceptions. It comes from past experiences. And I can tell you, it only takes a split second of a moment for the brain to form a misperception that ends up impacting our confidence. And it can come anywhere in our life, but the majority of time for my clients, these things happen before the age of 5. I want to give you an example of a past client because one of the things that really drives me up the wall when I do research for various topics that I want to talk about and to see what other people are saying. And it's not so much now, but my God, back in 2020, it was the buzzword. And I have an episode back early in the podcast about it. And that buzzword was trauma. Everyone was saying everything was due to trauma, and it's still out there. But now the big buzzword is ADHD, and we can get into that later because I have a recent diagnosis of ADHD, and I have noticed so many things in my life that I've worked through and continue to have the pattern, and it ended up being ADHD. That's another episode. We'll come back to that. If you have confidence issues, there doesn't have to be there doesn't have to be trauma. There doesn't have to be a parent who belittled you. There doesn't have to be anybody who bullied you. Those things don't have to exist for a split second experience to create an emotion and an immediate negative self belief. So, this client, this is from several years ago, she was a very prominent professional in her specialty. She was well recognized, had been a leader in her profession at 2 different organizations, and she reached a point in her career where she was ready to transition into something that was less demanding of her time and her physical energy. So she began getting additional training as she was going to make this transition out of the main aspect of her career for the last, I don't know, 30 years. And all of a sudden, she found that she was dealing with confidence issues, imposter syndrome. Am I going to be good enough? Can I do this? And it was really blowing her mind that as successful as she was, that this was all of a sudden coming up. So we did the work and we did root cause work. Where we ended up, the very first time that she ever felt this feeling and that she ever had this thought that what she did was not good enough, she was 3 years old. She was 3 years old and she was sitting in the floor and she was playing with blocks and she had built something with the blocks. And her mom walked up. She was so proud of what she had built. Her mom walked up, and I forget exactly what she said her mom said, but it was approval. But the mom's next comment was, "Let's do it like this now." And immediately began to disassemble what 3-year-old had built with the blocks. And 3-year-old was so proud of this. Have you ever found yourself leaning into something that you really want to do? Something that feels purposeful to you, it feels aligned. And as you get started, you begin to notice that you have all of these thoughts that come up that question whether or not you're good enough, you're smart enough, will it work, won't it work? What will people around you think of you? Does that happen to you? It happens for a lot of my clients, even my very successful clients. It's a part of our human experience. But I want you to know you can tame that inner critic and step into your limitless confidence. For a limited time, I'm opening up Catalyst. Catalyst is the perfect opportunity for you to optimize your mind with hypnosis so you can live a peaceful, purposeful, and fulfilled life. So if you're ready to lean into who you truly are and not allow the little ego that we all have to talk you out of the very thing that you want, join Catalyst today. Go to pennychason.com/catalyst. 3-year-old didn't absorb the approval. 3-year-old absorbed the fact that mom started taking apart what she was so proud of. In the immediate shock, so there was shock, there was emotion. So we could say this is a little T trauma, not a big T trauma, but a little micro trauma. The shock, the disappointment, the sadness in that moment of like, oh no, mommy's taking it down. Her immediate next thought was, it must not be good enough. I must not be good enough. What if mommy doesn't love me? Those three thoughts occurred. It must not be good enough. I must not be good enough. What if mommy doesn't love me anymore? In that split second, that misperception took hold. Now, probably most everyone listening to this episode is an adult and may or may not, have children, but you've been around kids. And you might think, Penny, that's insane. It's just a stack of blocks. A 3-year-old, that stack of blocks was her world. She was so proud of that. She created that. She created that. She doesn't have context. She has not lived an adult life. And we as parents, we do this to our children all the time and we don't even realize it. We don't take into account how serious these little minor things are that in the big scheme of adult life don't have any impact on anything. They're extremely important to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old. So in that moment, my client is just buckets of tears, buckets of tears. I spoke to the grown-up present day part of her. I'm like, what is happening? She's like, I just realized my mother always loved me. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I have lived my entire life believing my mother did not love me. She goes, I just realized my mother always loved me. She said, we reconciled later in life, but I just now, for the first time in my life, know that my mother loved me. So I had her speak with that little one in the moment before mom said, let's do it like this. And I had grown up with all of her heart and soul tell that little one how much mom loves her, how much she loves her, how much she accomplishes in her life because she's smart, she's intelligent, she's good. She's a good person. Okay. We rebuilt her ego in that moment and we reframed, we basically gave her the gift of foresight to know that, hey, you're so proud of this. Mom loves you. Mom thinks it's great, but here's what's going to happen in just a moment. Mom really likes it. She's even going to tell you she's like it, but then mom's going to show you a different way to do it. And when mom shows you a different way to do it, that's mom actually wanting to play with you. She doesn't mean anything negative by it. She loves you. It's good enough. You're good enough. She just wants to play with you. We reframed that moment, and the client's perspective on their entire life changed. That self-esteem came back, that confidence came back. Now, when it comes to having limitless confidence, there is a couple of more pieces to this. But when it comes to the subconscious and where the seeds of doubt get planted, the seeds of the misperception of unworthiness, because I can tell you, I have never met a person who did not have an experience where they know they're smart enough, they know they're worthy enough, they know they're good enough, but they get this annoying twinge or feeling in their gut that, oh, who are you? Who are you to do this? Right? Who are you to do this? Are you really that smart? Our ego that's fearful can use humbleness as a disguise to play small, to hide, to shrink back. But when we want limitless confidence, that limitless confidence comes not only from reframing these moments, but from learning how to create the self belief around self trust and around self acceptance. Because when we can accept on a deep level that we're not always going to get it right, and that's okay, that shifts things. And the self trust, I've talked about it in a past episode. I will include the link where I go deeper into self trust because it's a whole other topic. When you have that self trust, when you have self acceptance, and you reframe the source, when you neutralize the source of the negative self belief, that's where your limitless confidence is going to come in. And this is what makes me so passionate about this work that I do. Because in that moment, working with someone over confidence, over a career shift at the age of, I don't know, I think she was 60, to focus on that, her entire life now has new meaning. And I can give you example after example after example of this happening. And people say, oh, well, my affirmations work fine. Oh, I do my journaling. I release these emotions when I do my journaling. I get clarity and I keep going. Okay, great. You get clarity and you get that confidence in the moment. You pump yourself up and you're able to push through. But where did that come from to begin with? Because when you take care of that, you are going to clear out more. You are going to see transformation in more areas than just your confidence, the imposter syndrome, the negative self talk, the twinge of the negative feeling, whatever it is that's coming up for you. You're going to see a shift that is much greater than that. And those are the collateral benefits of being brave enough to go subconscious to build that foundation of confidence back up, to allow yourself to experience what that really feels like. Because when you make that change for yourself, it's going to ripple out into everything that you do. I've had people come back to me and say, you know what, Penny, I didn't tell anybody about the work that we did together. And people are coming up to me and they're saying, what's different? There is something different about you. The way that you walk, the way that you're talking, like something's changed. What's going on here? If you are wanting limitless confidence in your life, this is the secret. The secret is neutralizing the source of that negative belief, rebuilding that foundation of confidence of who you truly are, to cultivate self acceptance and to cultivate a self trust that is much deeper than, oh, yeah, I trust myself to do this. Much, much, much deeper than that. So, anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I really appreciated having you join me today for this episode of Penny on Your Thoughts. I would really appreciate it if you would take a moment and head over to your favorite podcast platform and leave a positive review about the podcast. It helps me to reach more people, to help them to enlighten, elevate, and expand their lives. Be sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you back here again next week.